Does your life ever feel arbitrary or pointless? Does anything you do really matter? Is there any reason to struggle to achieve good outcomes or noble ends? These questions came up in a recent conversation I had. I was talking with my sister when she said something I didn't expect. It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it. She was talking about her life, her hopes and dreams. As she described a possible future, she said these words: "Life only gets harder." She went on to say more, but I was stuck on the first part. Life only gets harder? She didn't say, "I sometimes feel like life only gets harder." Instead, she tucked this in as background knowledge, like knowledge of the blue sky. She then began to share what it was like to live her life. "It's like going through a series of tunnels," she said. "You come into a tunnel, and then you finally come out. But when you come out, you are disappointed to discover you have not reached the end. There's a hole small enough to peek out and take a breath, but then it's time to go back into another hole. Life is an endless series of tunnels, and as I get older, it only gets tougher and tougher to make it through. I guess I have to accept that." As I listened, I could feel the heaviness my sister was carrying. But what could I say? Big brother jokes are no match for heaviness like this. And how could I offer advice when she seemed to be teetering on the edge of hopelessness? She continued, "I have been practicing gratitude. Earlier this year, I decided to record gratitude videos every day. I even forced myself to find 3 things to be grateful for directly related to the things that were hardest for me that day. But what did that do? It didn't change the fact that the problems are followed by more problems. Why fight so hard for such little reprieve or reward?" Now, one thing you need to know about my sister is that she is exceptionally good at seeing the glimmer of light in the darkest of tunnels. She has trained herself to see the positive in the negative. If you're in the middle of a dark tunnel, you would be greatly encouraged and relieved if my sister were to appear by your side to guide you through. But as I was hearing my sister express her feelings, I thought of the difference between one's psychology and one's worldview. Your psychology determines how skillfully you will navigate through the landscapes of your life, tunnels and all. But your worldview gives you a power to see whether the landscape is full of dark tunnels, or whether it has bright meadows or lush forests or towering mountain peaks, and where those parts of the landscape are, and the nature of those parts, and the percentages those parts take up, and whether the landscape itself is growing in depth of meaning, or whether it is headed toward ultimate chaos and nothingness. It takes courage to face reality, because you might find out things are fundamentally worse than you thought. What if your life is arbitrary? What if your labor is in vain? Will your acts of courage, your honest and persistent investigation of reality, and your efforts to build a life come to anything worthwhile? It also takes courage to seek treasures. What if your life isn't arbitrary? What if there is a deeper layer of meaning in everything? What if your attempts to improve yourself and the world are never ultimately pointless? What I am talking about is not merely changing your psychology. If merely changing your psychology were enough, I would not be telling you the conversation I had with my sister, because that conversation would have never taken place. What I am talking about is changing the things you currently see about the world. And that literally means putting into your view something you do not currently see. I could hardly resist. I wanted to give my sister a sight of something that could inspire hope within her. So, instead of merely nodding my head and affirming her dark situation, I offered her something new. I asked, "So you know about the happiness curve?" "No, I've never heard of the happiness curve," she replied. I went on to explain some interesting data I had come across concerning the prospects of happiness over a lifetime. Studies show that while happiness tends to decline as you approach midlife, after that, it tends to pick up again and actually approaches its highest points at the end of life. In light of this, I offered my sister the idea that while it might feel that the tunnels will continue to get longer and darker, those tunnels are actually preparing her to experience something much better and brighter. "Just stay alive long enough," I said. We both laughed. Of course, nothing I shared took my sister out of her dark tunnels. It didn't remove the reality of the hardships, but it did offer her a glimmer of a reason to see that perhaps her tunnels are not getting darker and darker until she dies. Your worldview touches every part of your life. A worldview has many parts. Some parts help you with the big picture of your life. Other parts help you with the day-to-day. Your worldview is like a ship. It takes you across the ocean of life. Some ships are able to travel far. They withstand the waves of reality, which test its strength. The larger, sturdier, and more powerful the ship, the farther it can go. So how do you build a worldview that will help you to navigate the waves of life? I want to leave you with 3 ideas. First, seek truths on topics that are most relevant to your hopes and dreams. What kind of a life do you want to live? Do you want to experience more happiness on a daily basis? Read about some of the developments in the positive psychology literature. Do you want to experience financial freedom in your later years? Read The Richest Man in Babylon. Learn the truths that will make you the most powerful in life. Second, search deep. Go to the foundational truths, the timeless principles. These are the secure beams that won't fall apart in a sandstorm. You can take the deepest truths with you wherever you go. It takes work to see them, and additional work to keep them in sight, but they will anchor you in the storms of life. Third, seek truths that can serve others. Your unique journey gives you a unique perspective on the world. You have insights that only you have. The world needs your insights. Get more of them. Share them. I conclude with a note from my sister. I want you to know that you are building a beautiful life. Your work is not in vain. In every tunnel, your soul is gaining new jewels of wisdom and virtue. These jewels are not just for another life after you die. They are also for this life. They are for the future you glimpse in those quiet moments. The seeds of value you are sowing are reaping for you a storehouse of treasures. You are on the happiness curve. Keep going, keep building, keep giving. Step courageously. The best is yet to come.